Hey, should we bring our kids on? Should we bring our kids on the podcast too to prove that we're dads?
This is not Maury. This is not Maury.
I mean, you're not.
I brought the birth certificate. Does that work?
Lie detector test detected. Oh, that's a whole nother episode. All right, welcome everybody to the Restoring Our City podcast. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus. I feel like it's summertime, so we just needed some time off. I feel like we just need a recharge, and there's just a lot going on. This special episode is dedicated to all the dads out there. We just celebrated Father's Day, and I have some very special collaborators who are fathers themselves. The four brown dads are on this episode. Jobbin Varghese, Chacko, and Toby Kurian. And I think we all need a break. And first of all, shout out to all the moms, please. We didn't get to do a Mother's Day episode, so we're not slighting you at all. But
shout out to the moms for making us dads.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I thought, I feel like we wanted to talk about just fatherhood in general, and this is something that we've all wanted to kind of touch on the podcast. So I'm really excited to have the guys on, and I think we all need a break sometimes because our kids kind of dictate and drive our lives, and where we just need a break. So appreciate you guys being on. How's everything going, Joel? Father, how are you doing?
Keeping well. Yeah, just still catching up on sleep. I don't think that ever will get better. I don't know. I think they said that anxiety level being a father that never goes away, even when your kid turns 18. I think you'll always be anxious or worried about your kids. But I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but
I feel totally fine with that.
Totally, I feel fine about that.
Totally
Not worried. Not worried about it. Are you worried about it? I'm not worried about it.
No, but it's true though what Joel's saying. You always wonder why your parents are so crazy about you going out and doing things and coming back late and blah blah blah. You're just like trying to live my life, man. And you have a kid and you're like, oh no,
exactly.
I don't want her doing that.
No, it's true. I feel like we should talk about all the stresses of being a parent, but I do want to go around the room just so if anybody's tuning in for their first time ever. So Joel, my brother, you've been a dad for what now? 2 years, right?
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah. I had to
calculate your son's age.
I had to think about that. I stopped counting after one. So.
Well, that's all you know how to come to.
Yeah. Yes. I have a 2-year-old son. I've been a dad for 2 years. So.
I hope Preethi's teaching him how to count.
No, Micah is. He counts up to 10. So he's already ahead of the game.
Well, thanks for being on, Joel. And Joel is a pastor in the Chicagoland area, and he's been part of Rock for such a long time. And happy to have your insight in here. And just kind of going around, Steve, you are a dad as well, and you've got a couple little ones at the house, don't you?
I do. I've got, been a dad for about 3 years. I can count to 3.
There we
go. Isaiah, almost 3? He'll be 3 in August. And then Sienna, who we call Cece, just turned 1.
I know all of us have just one for now. So do you feel like 2, like news? Going... No, there's no news. I'm not breaking any news on a podcast.
Breaking news?
No, there's a little ticker at the bottom of this. No, do you feel like going from 1 to 2 is like a big leap?
Oh, that's a good question. Yes. It's a big deal. It's a big difference. I think it's a handful, literally at times, right? But it's doable. It's, you and your wife just kind of figure it out. I don't think you're ever ready. You're never ready for 1, and then you're just never ready for 2. But it happens. It's part of life, I feel like. As cliche as that might sound.
Yeah. So literally a handful because you have 2 kids and you have 2 hands. Got it. Toby, you've been a dad for roughly the same amount of time, right? 2 years?
Yeah, just about 2 and a couple months. Yeah. My daughter is 2 and a couple months. Her name is Lily. She's super energetic. Should I keep going?
Describe your daughter in 3 words.
Curious, super adventurous, and
That's 3 words.
kind of
Great, good job.
All right, super. All right, curious, super adventurous.
I mean, all the kids in our friend group are adorable kids, and lots of energy too. Seeing all the pictures and the videos, it's really cool. It's crazy to think about this stage of life that we're all in. You know, we've all kind of grown up with each other as like, you know, rebellious teenagers and whatnot. And now we have kids, and now I think we started talking at the top of this. We're like, man, we have to be parents now and like steward over our kids and their lives, and sometimes we're a little anxious about it. But like, all right, guys, just tell me, what's the best thing about being a dad? First thing that comes to mind. What's the best thing about being a dad?
Man, I think it's like,
Is there like, I've just heard like crickets just for a second.
Like, there's good things.
There's honestly like the laughs. I love it. Like seeing my kid laugh and what makes him laugh, especially when he's watching things like on TV or just like playing around, like what makes him operate as a kid, like more of his personality's coming out. We just started talking to him, or like saying the 3 Little Pigs story to him every night before he falls to sleep. And he's always like,
so not the Bible. Cool.
Whoa! I bought you guys a Bible.
Wow.
All right, Father. So this is after prayer time. Let me clarify.
Old Testament or New Testament?
There you go.
Where is it?
Strictly Old Testament.
After prayer time, when we're like laying down, my wife or whoever's putting him to sleep will like, he always wants to hear the 3 Little Pigs, and we realized he identifies with the wolf, like he doesn't care about the pigs. Like he's literally like, we saw him in the morning trying to get out of his room, and he's knocking, and he's like, let me in, like something that the wolf would say.
He's like, I'm gonna huff and puff and blow down.
Yeah. And then like when the house falls down, he's like, oh no, it fell down. Like he's mocking the pigs.
He's sarcastic already.
Yeah, no.
I think it's like seeing like all the new things, right? So whenever I show Lily like something new, the reactions are hilarious, you know? Just like, I mean, the first time we ever give her like like a lime, just to, you know, brush it against, you know, and just to see, dude, the faces that she made, I was just like, I was dying laughing. You know, she has no idea. First she kind of likes it, then she's like, what the heck is this thing? But yeah, I mean, the first are always, I think for me, that's my favorite part.
I guess just seeing him actually talk, that just, you know, blew my mind, because in the beginning stage, you know, just like blabbing around, but when he actually putting words together and trying to put sentence together, it's just hilarious.
Oh wow.
And then he's already beginning to negotiate with me. I'm like, all right, Micah, you want some what do you want for breakfast? Want pancakes? It's like, how about oats? I'm like, we don't got oats.
You're like, how about?
Yeah, I was like, okay.
You got oat money?
Yeah, right. So I'm like, whoa, where is this? So it just blows my mind the way he just learning and putting things together. So maybe I'll have a conversation with him soon.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's crazy.
What's your favorite joke?
Oh, my favorite thing. I mean, honestly, it's you know, when they jump on you, it's like they have this like complete affection for you. Like, with, you know, you didn't have to do anything. It's just like he just runs to you. Like my son just runs to me and grabs me, and then he'll run away, and then he'll like turn around, and then he'll run right back, and that's just his game. And so I love that. But then, you know, at the 9th or 10th time, I'm like, okay, dude, stop.
Yeah.
let's stop.
Each of those runs and each of those times he's like running towards you and like, you know, slamming his head against you, or eating you, or crawling, like clawing your face, something. It's always that, you know, it's like,
exactly.
like, you love it, but then like you're like, man, I'm walking around with bruises from my baby.
Right.
Scratching in the face.
Exactly.
Love hurts, right?
Yeah.
Fatherhood is so important, right? It's like so important. It's like this crazy weight of responsibility for all of us, not only for our kids, but our spouses as well, and things like that. And I was just reading some stats. And, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this episode and kind of talk about it is we just had Father's Day, and then we have all the stuff going on in the world. And it seems like there's like this correlation when I look at some of these stats to say like, wow, when people don't have fathers involved in their lives, there's a lot of bad things that could happen. So let me just kind of throw some of these at you. Based on like the US Census Bureau and some of the stats that I got from them, it shows that almost 17.4 million children live in fatherless homes, which is crazy. It's between like 17 and 18 million. It's crazy. So it's almost like 1 in 4 kids are living out without a dad. And, you know, I've read some articles where it kind of says, hey, that it really leads to a lot of negative things, but then there's some other articles that say, hey, well, it's kind of skewed, right? Like there's other factors that are involved. Like, you know, if there's not a parent in the household, then there's higher poverty rates, crime rates, and all those kind of things. I could read off a bunch of stuff, but we're pretty fortunate, right? Like, and when I think about how like we grew up, especially as South Asians, right? Like family is like a huge thing, right? So how would you say like the family that you were raised in has shaped you as being a parent? Are there any tendencies, or are there things that you're doing like what your dad did to you, or how has that influenced you?
For me, at least, like my parents worked a lot, so like we didn't have like one-on-one time. So I make sure I have a lot of one-on-one time. So I think like, you know, we're supposed to build upon things, right? So I think the past generation did a great job with what they had, and what they had was very unique to them because, you know, they're immigrants and they just came to the country and they don't know many people and they're trying to establish a life. And that's a whole different story than what we have. We are, you know, we're fortunate enough to like be established in a way where because of them, then we have to kind of like pass that torch along and, you know, improve that torch almost, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, you take a lot from what your parents did, and sometimes you eliminate a couple things, you know, like obviously like Audis are not as important, you know, in my household as it was, you know, when I was growing up, you know, now it's
you're not getting a stick. You're not getting a stick from the backyard. And
yeah, there's no switches or sticks or, you know, chopples or anything like that.
Yeah, the chudavari that would be on top of the
chudavari, right.
I don't know if this happened to you guys, but like, you know, when growing up in church and stuff, if somebody goes to India, like my parents would ask them to go bring back.
Bring it to
You can't find sticks here. You have to get it from India.
I know.
I never understood that.
But I think they
wanted
like
a certain brand,
sticks.
dude.
I think they have like
a brand.
Yeah, there's a brand of beating sticks for your kids. It's all
Actually,
like
with the logo
coated nicely with wax and stuff to
Polished.
Yeah.
We are living in a completely different like generation, culture, and like Toby, you mentioned, like, you know, some of us are not the immigrants, and you know, our parents did so much to like establish stuff for us so that we can have a better life, right? So like, what are some of those things that we don't have to focus on that maybe they did?
I think we're less scared of the world than our parents, you know? I think our parents focus a lot on like protecting us from the world. And I think we're still like, obviously, you know, very aware of things that are happening and we want to protect our kids and stuff. But I think like we're a little bit laid back, I think. I don't know. Maybe you guys could say, no, I'm not laid back, but I think I'm a little bit more laid back than my parents. My parents were constantly afraid like you know, something's going to happen, or, you know, I was going to go the wrong direction, you know, because, you know, how crazy the world is. But I mean, for me, like, I think like with Lily, like, I understand, you know, the world, and that's what it is too, right? Like, they probably do not understand the world that we're living in because, you know, they came at a later age or whatever not. But for us, this is our home, and, you know, we understand it. So I think like I don't even want to say there's less worry, because there's always going to be worry about your kids, but, you know, it is like there's some boogeymans out there that we know that is not real, you know. As I talked to Joel, the ultimate boogeyman.
The ultimate boogeyman. That's a good point, though. Like, context is everything, right? Like, our parents came to this strange country with not understanding the culture of how things are operating, right?
Right. That's what it is, the culture, right? Yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
that's the advantage I guess we had because we were born and raised in this culture, right? Not to say our parents, you're right. They came here at like maybe their late, early 20s or late teens or however old. But so majority of life, life and culture was in India, and then coming to a whole new country with an Eastern culture mindset, coming to a Western culture, and then raising kids. It definitely it's a whole different ball game. But yeah, I think that's a huge advantage. If you can say it's an advantage for us being born and raised here, we're more in tune with the culture. And so I like what Toby said, we're like less afraid, right? Because we understand. And so we go about certain things differently.
I think too, which is a good point, but I think too, being afraid of like losing your reputation, like we don't necessarily focus on that. I think in our generation right now, it's not a motivating factor. When I talk to youths or when I talk to like people that I know that are our age and stuff, it's not a motivating factor if you're going to lose your reputation if something happens. Like we have a community, like we have friends, we have people that we grew up with, and they kind of left those people behind, so to speak. That's why when they came to America and they see like a neighbor, or they hear, oh, you live close, like 30 kilometers close to me. Oh my God, you're my neighbor. Like they just they fix onto such like relation because they didn't have that when they were here. It's just like whoever sponsored them to come here is like who they had. And if they treated them poorly or good, then that's what's going to set the tone for what they did next in their life at that time. So it's with us, we grew up, like we have you guys, like I have you guys. And I know like if anything were to happen, I got you guys to get my back and vice versa. Like we have community here in Michigan that like we got a solid group of guys and girls that are, there and like relevant in each other's life that always picks each other up. So like I don't know, that just sense of like everything, especially in our culture nowadays, is just not nowadays, just growing up is always like, oh, look in so-and-so, they do this or they do that. And it's like always a comparison thought process or, if you do this, then what will this person think? It's like, I've never even thought that with my kid, like, or, you know what I mean? Like we don't really have that thought basis to motivate us nowadays.
That's that whole shame culture, right? Like that we kind of live on. Yeah. No, you're right about that. I don't think that we're going to be like, oh no, my kid did this and, I'm so embarrassed. That's not even like the first thing we would think. Be like, is my kid okay? Like, is there long-term damage to whatever that is, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, for our parents, again, like I'm not blaming anyone. It is what it is. Like, that's just the way, that culture was, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm not going to really worry about it if like my reputation's on the line, you know what I mean? Because that's not relevant.
It already sucks. So.
Yeah, it already sucks. So it can't get any worse.
I'm just kidding.
If anything, my kid's going to make it better.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at them at positive.
Believe that.
Yes.
I'm thinking I'm still learning from like what my parents are teaching me or how I'm adapting to my parenthood. Because like now that my parents live with me too, I'm seeing a whole different aspect of them as parents or grandparents. And it's like totally different. And like literally we had the same conversation with my parents the other day at breakfast. And my mom commented that like, I've never seen her father. Like, she's like, I've never seen my father hold a baby even, and she's not the oldest either. So she was, and she wasn't the youngest, sorry. So there were kids that he could have held, and it just wasn't, her father hit her twice in her life. And I'm like, well, then you should remember what those two things are. And we talked about it, and it's just like, it's just like what they've been influenced by, like until you really start to dig deep, like what they were even like going through and how and why they're parenting us the way they parented us. And like Toby, I agree with you. I don't blame them for anything. Like it's just understanding where the culture came from. And like, I don't think I'm setting personally like, oh, I'm not going to do this or I'm going to do this, because you're right. I think I'll just fail at either of them. It's just a matter of, I mean, you're either just going to do it or not. And as you go, walking with.
And I think also like fathers are more accessible too in our generation, and in our parent generation too. But before that, like my dad always tells me like his dad, it was even really like it was hard to even approach him. You know what I mean? Because he was like the father of the house, and that means that he is king. and there's no like even approaching him. It has to go through the mom. And I'm sitting here like I'm thinking about my daughter. I'm like, no way, I want to literally talk to me all the time. She's gonna get sick and tired of talking to me, actually. So it's crazy how things have changed. And obviously for this, like I think it's a better thing. But it's crazy how like the characteristics of a father has changed in 2 generations or so. It's nuts.
Yeah. And the context has changed too. Like, I feel like our parents in that generation had a different set of circumstances, but man, I give them a lot of credit too. Like, I think we started off this episode talking about our kids and like how we see them, but now like reflecting back on our own parents, it's mind boggling now, right? Like, cause there's probably people who are listening to this podcast who are like the teenagers and maybe some of the college students probably still rebelling against your parents or like have a grudge, you know what I mean? But like, honestly, as you get older, it's going to start to click to you because man, like everything that they had to sacrifice for us.
Yeah.
And they realized it in the moment, even while we were talking back to them and pretending like they didn't get it, but they actually did get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm hoping like our kids see that some way, like we actually are looking out for their best interest. Which kind of brings me back to these stats, right? Because there are a lot of people in our society that don't get any of this, and that's kind of sad, right? Like do you feel like well, let me frame it this way. Like in society today, we have a lot of issues. How critical is the role of parents and these father figures, and how it impacts some of the craziness that we see in our world?
No, I mean, I think it does play a huge role. Personally, now as I'm a dad and my son's only 2 and I still have a lot to learn. But I just already appreciate my father and the way he raised me, because it made a huge influence on my life and how I view my son Micah, the way I love him and the way I even encourage him to know the Heavenly Father, and that's the key there, is that in order to be a good father, we need to realize who our Heavenly Father is. And to have those positive role models, such as our parents, it makes a huge difference, because it shows we're loved. We feel that love from them. We just have a kind of like a positive atmosphere where we come home, we can share our burdens. We can, when we're in pain, we have someone to hug. Now, just think about your own father, mother, when you were just down and having a rough day, and they just said, "I love you." Just saying those words, and it sucks that there's a lot of people in this world that don't even have that opportunity or never even heard their parents say, "I love you," or "It's going to be okay." It just to say those 2 words makes a huge difference in someone's life.
Yeah, I think like each parent has a role in a child's life, and it's interchangeable. I mean, the whole stereotype, like dads have to be tough.
Sure.
I know a lot of tough moms, you know what I mean? That's not it. It's just, but it's just like, it's always good to have a team, right? It's, even in like work and things like that. Like if you're tackling a project for some, if you're tackling a project and you're only using your ideas, you're only, understanding like your point of view, the project is not going to be as good as, if you had 2 more people around you that's, kind of catching up on your mistakes or, understanding a different perspective and things like that. And now calculate that throughout your whole entire life. That's a lot of advice. That's a lot of sage advice. So I think it's really important for a child to have a father and a mother, and like I said, it's not about one being tough, one being loving. That could interchange. That's not even it. It's just having those 2 people there who really, I mean, at the end of the day, we both know, I mean, we all know that there's a love that you have for your kid that you have never felt ever. I mean, it's something different, right? So when you're speaking to your child and when you're explaining things, it's coming from that love. And now imagine double that, and it's always going to be better double that, throughout your life. So I mean, like, it's really critical. And I like Joel was saying, like, I feel terrible for the kids who don't have that, because it is a disadvantage. And not to say that a single mom or a single dad can't do it. Of course they can. Like there's some very strong people out there. That's not what I'm saying, but it's a less of a burden for that mom or that dad who's going through as a single parent, because the back end of that is like whatever your kid's going through, your parents, those parents are going through, and they have to hold each other up also. You know what I mean? So it's like this crazy, interlinking, a relationship that we all benefit from. So if you have good parents, I mean, it just puts a whole different perspective in your life, and in a very, very good and positive way.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult question. When you guys were talking, it just kind of reminded me of like a time where I was reflecting when Isaiah was first born, and he started walking and just kind of moving, and while he didn't have like complete sturdiness yet, or he hasn't had the full ability to walk, right? He's just kind of learning the process, and part of me being there for him, or like Rebecca being there for him, was like, making sure he fell with grace, or like gently, not trying to bump into things and actually hurt himself. But like, it's not like we prevented him from falling. We just kind of guided his fall. Mm-hmm. And without parents, like without both of us being there, even just for one child, it was kind of difficult to always monitor that, because this kid's just trying to get up and go about wherever he wants. He's curious. He wants to learn the world. He wants to touch everything. He wants to see everything. Without the two of us there, I mean, who knows, right? Like what he could have touched or done, or how he could have hurt himself. And it just, it's so practical or so basic, but at the same time, it's like, you're right. It's such a burden for single parents, whether it's a father or mother that's out there. I mean, that's amazing that they have that challenge or that opportunity to be there. But really comes down to like just praying for those people that have to go through it by themselves. And hopefully they are surrounded by community with people that may not be fathers, but like you said, father figures, or influencers, or uncles, or, grandparents.
Which I really appreciate about our culture too, right? As South Asians, everybody's your uncle. Like literally everybody's your uncle, everybody's your aunt, right? Like that's how I introduce people. Even like my coworkers, I'm like, oh, this is Aunt Sandra. And like they're like, why did you call me aunt? I'm like, well, that's what we do, right? Because like that's how we relate to people. We pull people in as family. Like if you're going to be involved in my child's life, your family. Toby, like when you mentioned that, even just about like single mothers and just like that they can do it, but it's tough. I think, what is our role as a church, right? Like James 1:27 says, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. It's like, that is literally what our call is too, right? Like when we see these types of situations, we should be addressing it as a church and supporting people in need, because it's such a great weight. Parenthood, raising kids, it's crazy. And so I guess, I mean, I want to ask it too, because I feel like in our society, sometimes people say, oh, well, you know what? I don't need a man, right? I don't need the father in the life. I can do it on my own. And there's, and I think there is definitely something to that where, people can be strong to raise children on their own. There's definitely really strong single moms out there. But do you feel like there is some of that, I don't know, noise in society today to say, well, we don't need the dads. We can kind of do this on our own. How do you guys feel about that? I know that might be kind of a touchy subject, but
it probably comes from a lot of hurt, to say that kind of stuff, because we kind of look at it and we're like, oh yeah, she doesn't need a man, whatever, or he doesn't, need a woman, whatever. But most of the time when I hear those things, and when I know that person, it's from like a good amount of hurt, and sometimes it's from leaving, that person who left, or that person who's not a good father or mom or whatever, is neglecting the child, and the other parent who loves the child so much, like that hurts them a lot, or they neglected them, and maybe left the relationship, or whatever it may be. But I realize a lot of those things, and I'm not saying all of it, but of course nothing is absolute, but a lot of it is from past experience and past hurt, and that's what it is, when I hear it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Whenever I hear that, I just kind of empathize with them, because of there's they just didn't think of that out of the blue. There was a reason for that, and either a past hurt or a negative experience. But no parent is perfect. We have some horrible parents in this world, and I mean, there's stories after stories of abuse and of children just going through horrific situations because of their parents. And so not every, and just going back, though it's a blessing to have both parents, but in some cases, for some children, it wasn't a blessing because their parents were terrible people. I mean, just read in the news about this a 4-month-old baby died because they found cocaine in his bottle, and his parents were just parted. So, it just shows how much we need that gospel, how much we need Christ, because when we have a relationship with Christ, knowing who our Heavenly Father is, a real Father, that directs us of how we are as a parent. That's the motive of why I want to love and take care of my son Micah. And I think the same thing for our parents. I think I can say boldly for all us four is that we all had parents who knew the Lord and who had a genuine relationship with Christ. And that was their motive of displaying that love towards us and providing that love and care for us. And we learned that from them too, And so the one huge key is having a relationship with Christ, which brings a huge positive influence of being a parent. But yeah, going back to what Toby said, and those people who say, like I read a tweet the other day on Father's Day. It's like, we need to ban Father's Day. It neglects it pretty much neglects all the hardworking mothers, single mothers. I get that. That is true, but you're still neglecting the hardworking single fathers. There's a lot of great single fathers in this world, and so you can't just get rid of Father's Day or Mother's Day. That's not the situation. People need to learn, what does it mean to be a father? What does it mean to be a mother first?
That's a really good point. And because even just the Bible models our relationship with Christ in a family dynamic, right? And I think about and this is not just about fathers, but like mothers and just the roles of parents. I think there is this piece of society that sometimes might diminish fathers, but hey, that's where we step in as a church, right? Like, we can be father figures, we can be mentors, we can be disciplers, right? Like, we can be involved in the lives of people who need that extra support and encouragement and motivation and all that kind of stuff too. So being dads now, what's some of the lessons that you would give future fathers out there, or just like people who are, thinking about, I would love to have kids one day? And what are some of those things that you would think you would share to people who would love to step into the role, this really critical role of being a dad?
Do it. I'm just kidding.
Run.
Don't do it.
Our wives are gonna kill us.
I know.
No, honestly, it's a lot of work. So anybody who's out there wanting to be a father, take your time, do your thing, travel, whatever you have to do, because and sleep, because it's really hard. It's literally the most challenging thing you'll do. So take your time and just take your time.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you could read all the books on parenting, being a father, all you want. But until you have your own child and hold him, it's going to be a different experience. And that's your own experience, and be patient. And you're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. That's part of learning, and just love your child and be present. I mean, all those emotions you may think like, I don't know how to do it. It just comes naturally. Because I remember when I was like terrified, man, what am I going to do? And all these things, like when Mike was born. But I remember the day when I held him for the first time. It's just this peace, and then this love just overwhelms you. And then you're like, I can do this. And so just be patient, and then you're going to experience your own experience with your kids. So, and it's hard work. It's definitely hard work.
Yeah, I would say, and I'm still working on this, but put your phone down. Like literally, just soak it in. Like you're there to make memories with your kid, to experience them.
Yeah.
And it's just so much better in real life than to just always record everything. You know what I mean? Like, and I like to record things just so I can go back in my photos and just like look at it. But there are just times where like I'm missing things, even though like he's just right there. And me and Rebecca are always like, look, or, you know, look at Cece or look at Isaiah. And we'd have to like physically, and I do a worse job than her, but I have to physically like look away from my phone. And I think they see that, right? So they know if you're interested in them or not.
Yeah. I think one of the best pieces of advice was like, no matter how frustrated you get, it's going to be over. This moment, this phase is going to be over very quickly. So try to soak it in. So like it's 3 a.m. and I cannot put this guy down and I'm frustrated. And that thought always comes to my mind. Like, oh, wait, he's not going to be this tiny where I can, well, maybe. Given our genetic pool, well, he might not be this tiny anymore, and I'm not going to be able to hold him. Like my dad's not carrying me around, you know what I'm saying? It's like you're not going to get these moments back, so try to soak it up as much as you can.
And don't shake them.
Don't shake. Yeah,
don't shake babies.
Don't shake babies. I mean, is anyone giving that advice out? I don't think so.
You're not supposed to shake babies?
Man, cutting that out. I don't want the authorities to hear any of this.
Yeah. Dude,
I don't want Jamie to hear
I don't want
I don't want Jamie. That's what you meant, right? The authority. Just
yes.
ECFS. They're like, what's going on?
Oh man.
I thought it was exciting for them. No, that's not a thing.
It's not a roller coaster. Did you see that one dad? He was like doing a TikTok video and he put the baby in like this little like luggage thing. Great. And he just put a video of a roller coaster and he was just like simulating.
Yeah, one of the comments was like, oh, why is he doing this? And it was like, oh, he does it all the time, don't worry.
That's hilarious.
You got a lot of editing to do.
Yes, I do. I do have a lot of editing, or not. Well, I think, guys, I appreciate you being on. This is an interesting topic, I think, for all of us. If you're a father or a parent or a mother or an uncle, brother, doesn't matter. Like being there for people and having a mentor role and getting involved in especially young ones' lives, whether you're a parent or not, it's really important, as you can hear kind of our experiences growing up. And I think that's what we're called to do, especially as Christians, is right, as far as community. And I know we're not getting super deep spiritually and talking about a verse, but like even just that verse in James kind of tells us how we should be stewarding others and putting others forward. And I think the parental role does that too. So I appreciate you guys jumping on and sharing your thoughts on this. And then for everybody else who's thinking about it, buckle up. It's a fun ride. It's the most challenging and fun thing ever. Guys, thanks for being on. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Later. Thank you.
Thanks.
See ya.